Where are the काम वाले?
Good evening to one and all present here. On behalf of Entrepreneurship Development Cell, Manet, I welcome you all to today's event, Rakshapreneur. I'm Albert Jokin, and I will be your host for today. ED Manet is a non-profit organization run by students working towards creating a culture of entrepreneurship and fostering the entrepreneurial spirit among the students of Manet. Our chief guest for today, Major General Gd Bakshi sir, will be talking about the strategic importance of military and defense startups. Before we move on to the next segment, I would like to welcome the core team members of the Rolta Incubation Center to the event. I now invite the chairman of Rolta Incubation Center, Dr. Akhilesh Barve sir, to say a few words.
नमस्कार सर. बख्शी सर नमस्कार. Hello sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Sir, welcome, sir, for this session. I think some network issue at your end. Can you hear us, sir? Bakshi, sir? Albert, there is some problem in sir, I think.
Yes, sir.
I think he is rejoining. Can someone approach sir on his mobile number or contact number, whatever is given, to rejoin?
Yes, sir, we will do it.
Okay. What is the status of participants?
Hello.
जय हिंद सर, जय हिंद.
जय हिंद. बताइए.
जय हिंद सर.
Jai Hind, sir.
जय हिंद.
Uh, Good evening to one and all present here. On behalf of Entrepreneurship
What was the
Development
some
Cell,
technical glitch?
Mallet, I welcome you all to today's event, Rakshapreneur. I'm Albert Joklin, and I will be your host for today. EDCell Mallet is a non-profit organization run by students working towards creating a culture of entrepreneurship and fostering an entrepreneurial spirit among the students of Mallet. Our chief guest for today, Major General Gd Bakshi sir, will be talking about the strategic importance of military and defense startups. Before we move on to the next segment, I would like to welcome the core team members of the Rolta Incubation Center to the event. I now invite the chairman of Rolta Incubation Center, Dr. Akhilesh Barve sir, to say a few words.
Welcome, sir, to this e-cell event. And I just welcome all participants, those who are viewing this all through YouTube and from this platform, online platform. So, Bakshi sir, recently I joined take a charge of this Rolta Incubation Center in Manit as a chairman.
Excellent.
So, yeah. So we have our with us here Dr. Deepak Kumar also. He is also one of the member of our Rolta Incubation Center, and Professor Abhinav Vashne is there. So three members are here present, sir, from the Rolta Incubation Center. And we all welcome you and looking for your guidance to boost our Rolta Center activity.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Now I just
Thank
hand
you
over
so
to
much.
Albert for the next session.
Thank you so much, sir, for introducing Rolta Incubation Center. Now, a brief introduction about General Gd Bakshi sir. Major General Gd Bakshi sir was commissioned in the 6th Battalion of J&K Rifles in 1971. He is a veteran in handling counter-terrorist operations in Jammu and Kashmir and Punjab. He has served two tenures at the Directorate General of Military Operations and was honored with the Vishisht Seva Medal for commanding a battalion during the Kargil War and the Seva Medal for the operations in Kishtwar. Being a prolific writer and author of 37 books, he actively appears on TV talk shows as a military analyst. He has contributed some 200 papers in numerous prestigious research journals and national newspapers. Sir, we are honored to have you here and are incredibly grateful to you for taking time out of your busy schedule to interact with us. On this note, I hand over the stage to General Bakshi, sir.
Thank you. Thank you indeed. First of all, let me wish each and every one of you a very bright, happy, and prosperous 2021. We have had a horrible annus horribilis in 2020, wherein we saw, a black swan event that occurs once in 100 years or more. And that black swan was COVID-19. I have no doubt in my mind that COVID is a Chinese infliction. It is the Wuhan virus. Let's be very blunt and straightforward. It came from Wuhan. Whether it was an accidental release from the wet markets of Wuhan, accidental release from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, or a deliberate biological warfare attack designed to weaken all the adversaries of China. That time alone will tell, and I hope there is a very very candid court of inquiry on this, because we need to get to the bottom of this. Otherwise, we'll just keep suffering one pandemic after another, because the Chinese have been writing in their military writings about uh, biological warfare. Hello, hello. Please shut the other one. There is causing an echo. Hello, can you hear me? You can hear me? Okay. So as I was saying that we hope we will have a much better year. Now, one of the national disgrace is the fact that 73, 74 years after our independence, we are still buying, importing 70% of our weapons and equipment, and critical weapons and equipment at that. It is a national disgrace. I will only put it in those blunt military terms. It is a national disgrace that we are still buying, all 70% of our major weapons and equipment from abroad. And China, which was on par with us some decades back, today is one of the major exporters of weapons, apart from producers of weapons. And one of the problems that was responsible for this was our culture of, we said for make in India, substitute assemble in India. So we started buying semi-knockdown kits, completely knockdown kits from the Soviet Union, and we started assembling them at HAL and at other places in our heavy vehicles factory and others. It was like assembling a mechano set. Okay. You just put it together, the nuts and bolts, you get the whole package of that equipment from abroad, and here you assemble it and you put a made in India tag on it. It was very, very harmful to our overall self-reliance project, because it gave us an optical illusion of being self-reliant, when in reality we were not designing our equipment, we were not making it on our own. We had the know-how, we gained the know-how by just getting the manual, but not the know-why. We did not have the source codes, and we could not improve any of the weapon systems that we were assembling in India. Let me give you an example. Before the 71 war, the MiG-21, one of the maximum used fighters in the world and in our Air Force, it used to only fire missiles, air-to-air missiles. We wanted to add a cannon onto it, a 23 millimeter cannon, so that in case the missile missed and we had to engage in, fighter to fighter air combat, we would have some backup in terms of a cannon on the MiG-21. And then it could also attack ground targets with that cannon, with that MiG-21, and with ground rockets and all that. So we asked our HAL to kindly modify the MiG-21 so that it can have a cannon. They said, oh, we can't do it, we don't have the know-how, we don't have this, we don't have the authorization, etc., etc. Whole lot of excuses. So we, can you kindly cut that out, please? Hello.
अभी रुक जाओ बेटा, पापा क्या देख रहे हैं, काम कर रहे हैं.
Hello.
Okay.
Can I restart? Thank you. Acha. So as I was saying, that was a lovely child's voice. I liked it. It's added cheer. But now let's go on. So we said please add a 23 millimeter cannon. They could not do it. That is the bloody disgrace. They could not do it. And then the Air Force gave it to its own Air Force workshops. And the Air Force workshops fitted that 23 millimeter cannon onto the MiG-21, and it functioned beautifully. It functioned beautifully in the 71 war. It did a lot of good job, good service to us. So that is the problem. We had a team in the Indian Army led by Brigadier Gurdial, which had designed the 75/24 millimeter gun. Then it had designed the 105 millimeter Indian field gun. And then that team was allowed to retire and go home and disperse, and that's it. And when we purchased the Bofors, and when the Bofors, the clause was that 450 guns we would buy outright, and the rest, about 1,000, we would produce in India. When it came to that producing in India clause, all the Bofors scandal burst loose on India, and Rajiv Gandhi's government went down, and all that tamasha that we had, and for 30 years thereafter, we could not make our own gun or even buy another gun to replace it. A medium gun is the most required gun in the battlefield, because shell has got the weight to destroy enemy bunkers. And in Kargil we won because we used the Bofors. Now 30 years, you haven't been able to get a replacement for the Bofors. That design team was allowed to vanish. And then now, we discovered some years back, 5-6 years back, that, oh my God, the blueprints of the Bofors are lying with us. So they were taken out and then they were given to DGOF and the others, and then they have now made the Dhanush, which is an improvement on the Bofors based on this. But we are very poor at metallurgy. At least the public sector is awful at metallurgy. And the guns that they made, 5 of their barrels burst during trial. So what faith will you have in that kind of a gun which is going to start bursting and injure your own people before it even touches the enemy? Then you see at that stage our private sector stepped in. Kalyani Forge. You all heard of Baba Kalyani. And he took it upon himself that they have been manufacturing, forging axles for the American truck manufacturers and the other heavy duty trucks. They have been sort of manufacturing parts for that, axles and all that for that. So he took it upon himself, and then he went to Sweden where they were, dismantling a 155 millimeter gun plant, and that was an excellent gun. So he went there and they were selling it off as scrap. So he said, I'll buy the whole plant. And he brought that plant and he transferred it to India and he reconstructed that plant here in India. And ladies and gentlemen, you will be so happy to learn that our own Indian scientists and engineers and the people of the Kalyani Forge, they then worked, they have produced an Indian 155 millimeter gun. Then they worked with DRDO and Larsen and Toubro, and they produced the advanced towed artillery gun system, ATAGs as it is called. And do you know something? This gun has got the longest range in the world. It can shoot up to, excuse me, मामा इनको बच्चों को बंद कराओ यार. So sorry, as I was saying that this gun fires to a range of 48 kilometers. That means the range is longer than the range of the American 155 millimeter howitzer. American, it is better than the American gun. It has got a better rate of fire. It has got an electric engine which is absolutely quiet. And yet there was a big tamasha created. Some people in the Indian military said, oh, but it is very, the GSQR we had set was for 12, 13 tons. This is 18 tons, so we can't take it. We must take a foreign gun. And then they were going in for an Israeli gun. So I'm very happy that the present government had then put its foot down. And they said, all 155 millimeter gun imports banned. Please buy India and take it from India. And that's how this gun is now going to come to the Indian Army. And I'm so happy. I'm so very happy. And all that restriction about 18 tons weight is all just gobbledygook. Because the 45-ton tanks can go to Ladakh and go to North Sikkim Plateau, the Kerang Plateau at above 18,000 feet. Why can't an 18-ton gun go? What is your problem? When this gun can shoot longer, fire at a better rate of fire, its gun barrels are excellent. You see, they don't burst. Unlike the other public sector, we've been having a lot of problems with the public sector things because they don't have the know why. They have the know how, they don't have the know why. Their metallurgy has been bad consistently, and all that they have done is assemble mechano sets. Semi-knockdown kits, completely knockdown kits. So it is very essential that we must do our own. Let me give you another example from the Air Force. The Air Force had hired, Dr. Kurt Tank, a German designer of aircraft, to build an aircraft fighter jet for India. And he had designed the HF-24. The HF-24 was to be powered by an Egyptian engine. The Egyptians were working in collaboration with us to produce a fighter jet which both countries would use. but the Egyptian failed to produce the engine. And then we had to, use a very highly underpowered British engine for this aircraft. And it was an excellent aircraft. It fought in the far end of the 65 war, then 71 war, 71 war, it definitely was there, I remember. It proved to be an excellent aircraft, excellent design. Even if today you add a good engine to it, for example, even the engine of the LCA is imported. It is a American, 404 engine, GE 404 engine. And even the next generation LCA will also have the American engine. Because we are very poor at designing engines, whether of aircraft, whether of tanks, whether of naval warfare ships, naval battleships. We are very poor at designing engines. Thank God, the best job has been done by the Indian Navy. They opened a design institute in the IIT Delhi, Ship Design Institute, long back, when they started sending their people as instructors to train, and they started training, a whole batch of people on ship design. Today, the Indian Navy is not buying its warship; it is making its own battleship, starting from aircraft carrier to nuclear submarine, to conventional submarine, to destroyers, to cruisers, minesweepers, and patrol boats, everything, the entire range of battleships, the Indian Navy is now making at home. Yes, we are still fitting some foreign engines, and I hope we will now improve in engines. Why can't we collaborate with Japan? After all, we are making Japanese cars in India and selling it to the world. Japanese motorcycles in India and selling it to the world. You see, so here is one example of Kalyani Forge, where they have made a world beater gun designed and produced in India. And thank God the Indian Army is now going to buy it in bulk. And hopefully we should be able to export it to Vietnam, to Sri Lanka, to Myanmar, to African countries, Southeast Asian countries like Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines. Why can't they buy our weapons? You see, if we export, then we will have, economies of scale. Because when you mass produce a weapon, the individual costs come down. So have you understood? Therefore, now the private sector is being opened up to manufacturing defense, and we are asking that let them have collaborations with the original equipment manufacturers and make in India. One is design and produce in India and make in India kind of a category. The other is collaborate with some OEM and make in India. So that you have the design with you. You can then improve the design. You see, that is what the Israelis do. They have lots of combat experience. So they buy, even if they take a weapon from America or Russia, they improve it for their own requirement, upgrade it. For example, the T-55 tanks, which they had captured from Egyptians and Syrians, they upgraded them and added from the 90 millimeter gun to 105 millimeter gun. And then we purchased that upgraded design from them, and we added it to our tanks. We upgunned our T-54, T-55 tanks to 105 from 90 millimeter. You see? And why can't we, therefore, at least start upgrading the equipment that we have? No other army, navy, air force, at least the army, no other army has as much combat experience as the Indian army. But what have we done to translate that combat experience to technological expertise in producing weapons? It is just buy, because there were a whole lot of politicians who wanted to make money. There were bureaucrats who wanted to make money, and they wanted to involve some military men in getting these kickbacks and all that kind of nonsense. I think it has gone on for long enough, and I'm very happy to tell you that the present government is determined make in India, okay, Atmanirbhar Bharat, and they are really working on it now. They have banned category of export. It is such a shame that we couldn't even design a rifle for our armed forces. The 5.56 that we had made in SAS, that proved to be, I'm sorry, quite disappointing. Quite disappointing. And then they tried to make one that didn't meet the resources, so now they bought some American, and now they are manufacturing Russian rifles in India. We could not manufacture a simple rifle. It's such a disgrace. That is why we are now, the climate is changing. Now Make in India is being encouraged. There are a lot of hot top firms like the Tatas, Mahindras, L&T, who are doing very well in this military technology field, and who have made great strides, who are building naval warships, nuclear submarines, aircraft carriers. They are helping in that, in all these projects, shipbuilding, and now they are trying to get into aircraft building in a major way. The public sector is resisting it tooth, nail and claw, but it is now happening. There is no stopping that, because unless we privatize defense manufacturing, we will always be importing weapons. We have to privatize so that the real talent from the IITs, from the NITs can go to our firms, get paid properly, get paid by world standards, and design good things. You see, if you pay peanuts, you will only get monkeys. We are very clear. And now then comes the next category of startups. Information technology is heavily required in the armed forces. You can have technologies in information startup, information technology, you can have startups in that, and so many other categories. You can have startups, you can produce your own small scale and medium scale, raise your own small scale, medium scale enterprises, and help in the militarization of Mother India, so that our forces get their own indigenous weapons, which are world class, which not only we can use, but we can sell to the rest of the world. Pakistan exports more weapons than you presently do. Can there be a greater disgrace that Pakistan is exporting more weapons than we are? So we must manufacture, we must learn the design process, invest in it. For example, now we have made the LCA. It has taken us 30 years. That doesn't matter. Unless you jump into the water, how will you learn how to swim? There will be setbacks. There were technology denials when we had the nuclear explosion. The Americans stopped giving us the aircraft engines. Now only when they have lifted these things, we have started importing those engines and other parts. We end-to-end solutions must come from India. The entire design process must be done in India itself. And that is where you young ladies and gentlemen from our IITs, from our NITs, instead of just migrating to Canada or United States or Europe, please stay back and help India. And it will be lucrative. Start your own startups. This is the era of startups. Start up and tie up with the defense field. They are having competitions where they encourage innovation. You get in touch with the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force, and they will help you. They will help you to come up. And if you have a good project, they are now developing schemes. Go to the ADGPI in the Army headquarters. He is accessible. He is on the ground floor of the South Block. You can get through him on email. You can get through him via the WhatsApp, etc., etc. They are very willing to encourage you and examine what you have, and then if they find it worthwhile, that it can help the armed forces, why not? Why not? And they are issuing. We have an integrated defense services, headquarters in Delhi, which produces a 5-year technology plan, a 15-year technology plan. They put it on the website. And please go to that and see what are they looking for in various sectors of technology. They have given you a forecast for the next 15 years. Please examine that, study that, and see where your skills are. Does it match your skill set? If it does, establish contact with the armed forces. Your institutions will help you establish contact with the armed forces. But for God's sake, let us start making in India. And my firm belief is that will happen only and only once we privatize our defense industry. And the big players start coming in. The small players can start coming in. The startups can start coming in to make sure that India produces, designs, and makes its own weapons and equipment for the armed forces. Thank you very much for a patient listening. Now, if there are any questions, I'll take about just about one or two because I have to go for the next program. Thank you so much. Jai Bharat, Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, sir.
Jai Hind.
And sir, I would like to start asking the questions on behalf of our team.
Yes, please.
Mm. Sir, recently you must have seen in the news that one of our alumni, Mr. Vijay Mamtani, has developed thermoelectric generators to supply power for our men and women at Siachen.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm
Sir,
so proud to hear that. Kudos and well
yes,
done.
yes, sir. So, sir, where do you see our startups along these lines going forward, especially in the areas of drones and uh, renewable energy,
You see,
these two areas?
uh, I'm not aware of the specific sectors that your institute is working on. If you can tell me that, I'll be able to answer this question a little better, a little more specific. What
Sir,
are the sectors that the NIT Bhopal is working on
sir,
or
as of now,
imparting training in?
we have had we have had two successful startups. One is
Uh,
on drones. So
uh,
we have entered into the DRDO competition regarding that,
uh,
developing swarm
Excellent.
technology for combat purposes. Another is renewable energy to provide power for our men and women at high altitudes because electricity power lines cannot reach there. So these
Excellent.
are the two areas
Excellent.
where we have worked on, sir. If there are any other areas which you are aware of, then do suggest us.
No, firstly, I'm delighted that you are working on drones because drones is the future. Have you heard of the war in Armenia, Azerbaijan? Turkish drones,
Yes, sir.
Israeli
Yes, sir.
drones have caused havoc they have caused. So drones is one area I don't know. It is amazing. The DRDO has not still been able to give us a proper drone. I mean, we've had some this thing which are very rudimentary. Why couldn't we have foreseen this 30 years back and started working on drones on our own? If Israel can do it, if Turkey can do it, why the hell can't we do it? So I'm very glad that drones are coming in. Now, drones are of three categories. High altitude, long endurance, they are called hail. Then it is medium altitude, long endurance, they are called whale. And then there are the hand launched drones, tactical drones, hand launched and small in size and small payloads, but endurance of just about hour, 2, 3, 4 hours, and with small, digital cameras, etc., etc., optical or electro-optical cameras, thermal imagers, etc. So that which are highly required, badly required. Then there are the micro UAVs which have got their hummingbird, very small, which can be put in the pocket, just about 5 inches and all that, which you can carry in your pocket and use for tactical reconnaissance, looking over the hill. There is a whole range of these, and if you can contribute towards drones, I think you've already done what shall I say, a singular contribution to the Indian Armed Forces. You will do because the public sector has singularly failed to develop proper drones. They started then, using some old propeller-driven aircraft and took out the pilot seat and started trying to, make it a remote-controlled aircraft kind of a nonsense. Yeah, well, we need to go specific, see the Israeli designs. We have had to buy Israeli Herons and Searchers, and then we are buying their kamikaze drones. We need drones that can operate in swarms and all this. So we need tactical drones, we need medium drones, and we have most of the drones that we have are just confined to surveillance. Why not attack drones? If Turkey can develop attack drones and Israel can develop such wonderful attack drones, China is doing it and they are giving the technology to Pakistan. I hope you know that Pakistan has now started using drones to supply drop weapons in Kashmir and in Punjab to the terrorists. I hope you know that. So we need to develop this drone technology in a big way. The next easy thing which you, since that is an area of your core competence, is this, generators, things to provide light and heat to our troops in the field, because there is no electricity there. So it has to be generators which are light, which don't make too much noise, which are efficient, which are not very guzzling fuel, because then that fuel all has to be pushed up. And there is one thing that I would suggest to you. When I was there, I tried to have micro hydel projects going. They have panchakkis. There are about 6 lakh panchakkis in the Himalayas. I hope you know that. Water mills.
Yes, sir.
Panchakki bolte hain
Yes, sir.
jisko. So we had some people. There was a Dr. Joshi of the HESCO, Himalayan Environmental Conservation and Research Institute. I mean, he was working on trying to, add, turn them, let that water mill produce the electricity which would drive generators to light up, which would drive lathes for lathe work in the field, which would, provide so many applications. So we have so many streams, we have so many nalas, rivers, fast flowing in the high mountains. So if we can design, but that was quite inefficient, the one that they had produced. Unfortunately, it could not be applied in the mass there. Then there was a German design that I saw, which the IIT Delhi was working on. So if you can make an application of this sort and go back to the army, that you have produced a very light, very efficient design of a micro hydel project, which can light up 40, 50 bulbs, things like that, or can run generators for the not generator, it will itself be generating without having to get fossil fuel to burn. So you are using the power, the kinetic energy of the streams, of the waterfalls which are there in the high mountains. So that is one thing that I could sort of think of. I can think of, detection equipment. If you can, we have this thermal imaging equipment which we were importing from Israel. Now we are manufacturing under license. Their problem was their battery life was very small, very short. And you had to keep sending them back for charging. And therefore, at a night, suddenly you find when you needed it, your battery is down. So if you can have these lightweight batteries whose charge can last long, they would be a very great boon. We have battlefield ruggedized computers. If you can have things for that, we are now trying to go for wearable computers. So if you can work out for those helmet mounted sights, helmet mounted night vision devices, all these are being worked on, which are required. And then, of course, there are so many applications. If you can sort of get in touch with the military directly, with Northern Command, which deals with it, they purchase from the private sector, private firms, equipment for the armed forces. You can demonstrate your equipment in Udhampur to the headquarter Northern Command, WE Directorate, whatever you have come up with ideas, learn from them what they need, what they want, and then try and produce it. It will be excellent. Yes, please.
Sir, thank you for answering my previous question, sir. Now, another question now, as you focused a lot on the army, let us switch slightly towards the navy, sir. As we have
Yeah.
seen that the Japanese and the South Korean navies, they have switched to using batteries for their submarines to increase their endurance. Sir, do
That's
you
right.
see our startups contributing in this field as well, sir? As the Navy has also
You see,
issued a tender for procurement of lithium-ion batteries.
Absolutely. Batteries of the future are the way to go. You see, because they want, submarines, which which don't have to come up onto the surface to recharge. There is a specific term for it. It is now slipping my mind. For example, the French Scorpion
Snorkeling,
submarine,
sir.
snorkel, they remain, snorkeling is, of course, that they remain underwater, they remain submerged, and they don't have to come up to the surface to charge their batteries, because our submarines become vulnerable when they have to come up to the surface to charge their batteries. So it is only the nuclear submarines which don't have to surface, because they are on nuclear propulsion, but they are making air independent, AIP, air independent propulsion submarines are now being done by the French, the Germans, and the Russians, as also by the Chinese and the Japanese. This is the technology that you are talking of. It's called AIP, air independent propulsion. It is all a subset of the batteries which you don't have to come to the surface to recharge, which you don't have to surface. The submarine doesn't have to come up, reveal its position, and just recharge, because any satellite will pick it up, and then that submarine can be destroyed, can be killed. So air independent propulsion submarines, batteries for those to be made in India and efficient enough, and which if you can improve them so that they can hold the charge longer, so that means recharging is on board, and in a manner which the submarine is not forced to resurface. That's certainly an area that you can go to. The Navy also needs drones, but they are more of why can't we go in for helicopter style drones, which can land and take off from ships? Try and design some of that. And there are some examples, Japanese and other drones which are there, so that they are smaller, medium-sized drones, not as big as actual helicopters, which can be on our smaller ships. So which will increase his surveillance area. Which will increase his surveillance area. Yes, please.
Sir, an extension of, again, naval technology. Sir, and this is an area which my friend and I have been working on, is electromagnetic launchers for electromagnetic aircraft launch systems, as in the case of the INS Vishal, and usage of
Excellent,
electromagnetic
excellent,
launchers such as railguns
excellent.
and poisons in the
Absolutely,
field of combat, sir.
absolutely. That is cutting edge technology. That is cutting edge technology. We are trying to get from the Americans this electromagnetic launch system for our aircraft, indigenous aircraft carrier that we are producing next. One, as you are aware, the basic ship is ready and it is under user trials now, but which has got a ski jump deck, so that the deck arches up like that and helps the launch of the aircraft. But now that does not allow larger aircraft like airborne early warning aircraft, etc., to take off on a ski jump. So for that we need the electromagnetic rail system, and that is the way to go. We are in collaboration trying to get it from the Americans so that it is some technology that we can use. If you can produce it at home, my God, the Navy would be delighted. They would simply be delighted if we can indigenously produce these. And of course, the rail guns are the future. Kinetic, because they can achieve very high kinetic speeds, which can give you good kills, and then they don't have to use high explosive at all. But the kills will be by the kinetic energy. So those are the rail guns, magnetic guns, etc., that are being spoken of, and those will also then be used for if we ever have to fight in outer space. Then maybe you will need these rail guns and lasers, very high powered, high energy lasers, and microwave killers, which the Chinese are talking of now. So microwaves are being used to damage enemy personnel and property already. So definitely you could work on the rail guns, electromagnetic launch system. This is a very, very lucrative cutting edge technology area to aim for. Next, please.
Sir, could you
Sir,
share your
and
Yes.
so this will be a final question from my side, and then the rest of the audience may ask. Sir, this was not a question related to the startups per se.
Ah,
Sir, as you're aware that the calendar of 2021 is exactly the same as the calendar of the year when you were commissioned and the year of the Bangladesh Liberation War. So, sir, a message from your side to our men and women in uniform and to our rivals.
Thank you. Thank you so much. God bless you for that. You see, I was commissioned in November 1971, 1 month before the war. And deliberately our batch the commissioning was preponed so we could take part in that war. We were just out of the academy, fresh. We hadn't even joined our units and the first day we were in the battlefield. But we are extremely proud. We paid a heavy price. We had the maximum number killed and wounded, lost legs, arms, etc. But we are so proud that we were at the cutting edge of a war in which in 13 days we broke Pakistan in two. We created a new nation state with the force of arms, and we caused the largest mass surrender of 93,000 prisoners of war, which is the largest mass surrender after the Second World War. It is an achievement any nation state can be so very proud of, can be so very proud of. You see, and I will just request all of you that my generation, we broke Pakistan in two. And if Pakistan doesn't start behaving itself, it is the task of your generation, it is the duty of your generation to see that what is left of Pakistan is broken into four. So you will contribute by providing the technology to our armed forces, which will help them to, destroy what is rest of this Pakistan, which is becoming a nuisance to itself and to the world. If it behaves, if it learns the lesson, well and good. Otherwise, this is the year 2021 in which 1971 may just get repeated if Pakistan keeps trying to push us, keeps trying to harm us through terrorism or any other type of violence. And if it thinks it can, with Chinese help, do it, they are heading for trouble. Because the Chinese will let them down like they let them down in 1971. Then also they were hoping that Chinese will come in. Nobody helped them and their nation was broken into two. So they should learn a lesson and behave themselves. Thank you. Jai Bharat. Jai Hind.
जय हिंद सर, जय हिंद।
Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, sir.
Jai Hind.
Good. Everyone,